Welcome to the Healer and the Dreamer Astrology channel. This is a Soli Luna inspiration special equinox edition. I'm with Dayana Robinson, and my friend Jesse came to check in with us. And I'm Martin, MC Starman. How you guys doing?
Excellent. Good.
We're on the estuary of the Cowichan River and the ocean here in Duncan in Cowichan Bay. What is the equinox? How important is the equinox, not just as a astrological phenomenon, but also as a opportunity, as a sacred opportunity to connect with Mother Nature? How is the equinox important in you guys' practice?
Equinox, particularly this one, feels like in that time of transition, a really deep call to be listening and quite attentively to that transition and what it's asking for as we pay attention to the land and what it needs, to healthily, go to a dormancy and same within ourselves, and what are we needing to nourish that transition and to nourish that change in energy and change in those regular daily and seasonal cycles. So yeah, a deep listening to that transition.
Deep listening to that transition. How do you feel these equinoxes?
Me.
Day?
Equinox, that middle ground between like equal amount of light and dark. And then as this equinox go into the darker days, I also look at it in like the astrological wheel. The shift from Virgo to Libra to me is about the self-work, self-care, self-devotion, and showing up to suddenly coming into crossing the other side of working on our relationship with others. And so bringing a lot more awareness to our community, our friends, our family, our relationships of all types and sorts to the other, the reflection. And then it being harvest too is always a really
harvest time, for
busy
sure,
time.
for sure. Astrology is a geocentric system. Western astrology is geocentric. It's all based on the progression of the equinoxes and the solstices. The astrological year begins at the spring equinox. So now we've reached the halfway point. We've lived through the brightest half of the year in the northern hemisphere, and now we are moving into the darkest side of the year, the 6 months where the sun is traveling south, and will be leaving us, not completely unless you live really far north, but now it's the descent into the darkness, and symbolically it's very important shift naturally, and we're already starting to feel it. The nights are getting cooler, the days are much shorter, we're into fall, and that has to be celebrated in a sacred manner, to acknowledge the movements of the year. And as Jesse was saying, this is a really good time to witness the inner processes and to focus on inner processes. So part of we wanted to do the video at sunset here, to acknowledge Father Sun and Mother Moon, and all of the transformations that we've been going through this year, how wonderful this year has been and how difficult that year has been. But also, I can speak for myself, but I think I can speak for all of us. We feel a lot of positivity into these times, huh?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of hope.
I was when Jessie came and visited, she said to me, I think that I'm having the best time of my life. And I had to say, well, actually, me too. Are you having the best time of your life, Dave?
I'm having a great time. I guess, yeah, it is the best time of my life. up to now in this human incarnate form. Yeah.
Well, I think the crisis really brought out of us a certain like passion for doing what's right for us, and not, I think that if anything, we've become much more sovereign into our own powers now. We're much more ourself, and that's the, we were talking about the meaning of the fourth Saturn Uranus square, which is moving within 1 degree right now, and that's, we're going to feel that the full moon coming up and the solstice, and then the next new moon's going to really be charged with the Saturn Uranus square, and Saturn, the archetype of Saturn, mastering the self, and Uranus, the great revolutionary. It's like we're so much more ready for whatever the collective has to throw at us. Saturn, it feels like we have, well, I know Jesse's been going through her Saturn return, and you're just getting ready for your Saturn return.
Yeah, I guess this equinox, the next equinox, I'll be joining in.
The Saturn in Pisces, folks.
Yeah.
We're going to talk lots about the Saturn in Pisces, folks. So we got the chart for you, and what's really interesting about this chart, and we'll show you. Boom. And then we're going to get a pen.
I was gonna say, I found it interesting, Jesse, when you reflected on this review time and kind of just looking over things. What I find super interesting about this chart right off the bat is that Mercury is going retrograde during this time, and it comes right into alignment with the sun at the equinox. So if we're following the sun's movement, this is a celebration awareness of the sun going into its darker days, or at least where we are on Earth, we see it less for the next 6 months. Mercury, the thoughts, the communication, the trickster, it's coming into alignment right then. And so it's neat to see over the next 6 months how this winter will be much more review mode and reflect mode than maybe some winters in the past. I wouldn't be surprised if it is for many people.
It feels, and I'm speaking from someone who, as someone who doesn't have as much of a depth of astrological knowledge as the both of you, but as we're going into this, it feels like there's a lot of energy. Like it feels like there's a lot of activating. There's the uncertainty and the unknown, but I think we talked about this. There's a vitality, like an optimism or a hopefulness in all that potentiality, and it's really palpable in my personal and what I feel as the collective sort of movement forward.
That's exciting, and Jung said something about that. He said you may think you're new to astrology, he says, but he says astrology is wired within you. It's been with us for thousands of years, and although and that's what's really amazing about these times, is that everybody's somehow finding a new connection with astrology. It's almost replacing the religious structures of the past into a more of a universal astrological system. It's Danielle Blackwood, a good friend of ours, astrologer, just wrote a beautiful post about how astrology is a sacred science, really. And so you were talking about that Mercury Sun conjunction right when the sun enters Libra. So that's the Libra ingress. So that's the equinox, the fall equinox. And the fall equinox, we've been studying quite a few charts, especially this coming full moon, and we've seen this grand kite and these grand trines. And I think this is a really good. We were looking at the next new moon and the next full moon, and those grand kites are still constellated. That means that we're in a period of about a month or so, a month and a half, where there's a constant grand trine and grand kite, and that flowing energy we're experiencing. I know in the past we were really focused on that Saturn Uranus square that we see here, Saturn and Uranus. and it also constellates and touches the moon, the sun, Mercury conjunction. But then we have that Venus to Pluto to Uranus, and then that Pluto, Uranus, Neptune. So that 3 planets here, and then Jupiter and Neptune, again, that grand kite. And so that grand kite in earth signs, getting ready to move into air sign. It's a super manifesting time, huh? It's like we're really engaged in creating new foundations for ourselves, huh? And no matter what the collective narrative is, I think we're starting to tune it out more and more and realize that, you know, this is our time to shine. And if we want things to change, it's about now, and it's about what we do with our times now. Do you feel that in your own lives as well?
I do. I feel very called for yeah, culture change. And for me, that's a very yeah, slow and rooted and subtle process of feeling into you know, how that will go, you know. Yeah, for me, that's a process that is embodied and attuned, and trying to use the ways that are counter to the sort of dominant compacted structures that, you know, have sort of encultured within us for a long time. And so that's a whole other conversation.
That's beautiful. That's
No, but I
beautiful. That's
see it.
beautiful.
It's time for restructuring. Yeah.
I think Mars plays a huge role in all of this. So Mars to Venus,
Yeah, I'm
Mars
seeing
to
that
Uranus,
just a few days later, we're gonna see a trine with the air, the sun,
with the
Saturn,
new
Mars.
moon after that, with the Libra new moon. It's going to be very interesting as well. So that grand kite, you know, again, the grand kite, I call it sometimes a bow and arrow, you know. So there's the bow, and then there's the arrow, and then there's the release point. At the full moon, it's going to be the sun and the moon that are going to be in alignment, and the release point and the tip of the arrow. But now it's Venus, Neptune, so it's very creative, quite inspiring creatively. I don't know about you guys, but I feel really inspired creatively, and so that's a really beautiful way. And then that Mars in Gemini, huh? The only problem about Mars in Gemini is the pace of life is a little bit much, isn't it? It's quite an intense pace. I don't know. Do you feel the same way too in your life, or you're more relaxed?
Right now,
Yeah.
I feel it picking up. There's definitely with this sort of creative energy and this inspiration and feeling that collective movement. There's like, okay, there's things to tend to and to do. It feels like there's calling to be more engaged than, you know, what I might feel as a more flowing amorphous time frame. A lot of the time. Yeah.
Later this fall, Mars is going to turn retrograde, and Mars is spending 7 months in Gemini. So that it's a really good time for writing and for communicating these higher realizations we're experiencing. Another thing about this chart is Pluto, Neptune, Moon, Yod again, another finger of God. We've been seeing, we saw it in the upcoming full moon in Pisces, and we'll see it again in the fall. And that's a very fated triangle. And the moon in Leo, Pluto in Capricorn, and Neptune in Pisces. So the quest for redemption that Neptune in Pisces signifies, and the eroding and the breaking down and the transformation of structures, Pluto in Capricorn, and the moon in Leo, you know, shining our light into the world. And so really feels potent times, huh? And again, all of it is all superimposed together. Fascinating. You got any questions about that? or realizations about the grand kite, and then the T square with Mars, Venus, what was it? Neptune, Mars, and Pisces and Venus. That's also very creative, and Neptune is the focal point of everything. Huh? So the quest for redemption. We're both reading books about Neptunes right now.
Yeah,
Huh?
that's true. Man.
Really playing a very important role this fall. And it's interesting because we expected that Saturn Uranus square to play a much more important role. But it seems like the collective crisis is still there, but we have a lot more. Again, I call it sovereignty over our own lives, and we don't empower the collective psychosis so much anymore. And we're really moving into our healing and moving into we are more fully. And that's how we can change the collective, is by ourselves individually, changing the way we live. Huh?
Yeah, back to restructuring our society, and that first is the society within us, which is as above, so below.
Well, that's been our little visit with you tonight. So take some time for the equinox to gather together with your community, to do some rituals, to honor these changes that are going on in your life. We thank you so much for supporting this channel. More than half of the people watching this video aren't subscribers, so please subscribe. It's really important to us as our channel grows. We in typical fashion, we went to 400 and then we dipped back down into, and then we lost our 400, but now we're up to 402 subscribers. So thank you, all of you, for subscribing. That's huge. Are you subscribing, Jesse?
Is it on YouTube?
Yeah.
I don't even think I have a YouTube account, but maybe I'll make one.
You don't have to have a YouTube account. You just go to the YouTube channel, our YouTube channel, and you press
No,
subscribe.
I think you have to have an account to subscribe, though.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Ah, well, I stand corrected. That's why everybody that's subscribing has an account. Ah. Mm. There you go. That was it. Thanks for joining us, you guys, and join YouTube and subscribe, and we'll see you down the road.
I just want to leave off with this time of the fall where we cross into the darker days. The light has been shining so bright and so wonderfully for the last 6 months outside of ourselves and into the sky and from ourselves. And now as we go into the darker ages, we get to see that light through people and through each other. So just a reminder to be coming back to community, tending to your relationships, tending to the aspects of society you want to see, and creating that for yourself will bring us into the new year and into spring equinox, into whatever forms that you work on. So it's really exciting to get to come together in this sacred time to really use this manifesting triangle to manifest the reality we all want to be in. And in the fall, I find we come together as community a lot more. So get to use that magic for the juiciness of earth and the healing of ourselves and all beings.
You guys didn't see it, but while Dayana was speaking so eloquently, a hummingbird came and visited us and shared his wisdom. I don't know if you heard it, but maybe you did. Jesse, you got anything you want to share before we close out?
Yeah, maybe just a continual invitation. That's an invitation that I'm offering to myself, but of yeah, a deep listening and a slowness and a hearing, how you can move into and through this transition and into your life and into your relations with yeah, that much more allowance and nurturing and compassion.
My new motto is like that. It's keep it simple, because it ain't. Because it ain't. All right, you guys. Thank you so much, Jesse. That was beautiful. And thank you, Day.
Hanging out with
Thank
me.
you, Martin.
Whoop, 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 whoop.